how that plays through in the long term, we're not even certain that these are going to survive the Supreme Court challenge. But if they do survive, then an entirely different question emerges, which is what tariffs are really largely about is creating an incentive for people to purchase goods and services in the United States, recognizing that in particular those who receive benefits from the United States, whether that's retirement income, et cetera, should actually pay a penalty if they ship those funds abroad. That's what tariffs are largely designed to do, is to redirect a component of that surplus that we express as a trade deficit in the form of money that is spent in the United States and then becomes income for the younger generation of workers. One of the most interesting part of what I define as the Trump derangements, to be very, very clear, I have lots of complaints about Trump. I'm certainly not a Trumpy or anything else. I did vote for him because I do think that the alternative would have been worse. But the simple reality is that people missed this fiscal consolidation. We got, I think the technical term is they got their panties in a bind, talking about the U.S. losing control of the long end, et cetera. I think that's largely been put to bed in the past couple of months. At the same time, the simple reality is if Trump decides to use this tariff stimulus or tariff tax as a stimulus, a tariff distribution back into the lower income individuals in the United States, that may prove to be a very popular component on a short-term basis, but that actually would be a really critical catalyst, then recharge the demand function and starts to create the conditions under which inflation could actually take meaningful. In the United States, we have an increasing number of corporations that have pricing power. We're seeing the increase in prices in grocery stores, as food is increasingly unavailable through things like food banks and supplemental assistance. That's pushing additional demand through the traditional channels. That's creating some additional food inflation, even though this is an area that should be theoretically unaffected. There's long lag components to it that are playing through that remain largely a byproduct of the COVID shutdown and the post-22 Russian invasion of Ukraine. But those costs are going higher, and it is putting stress on consumers. And an increase in subsidies coming through in the form of a tariff distribution check would provide additional funds to high consumption probability individuals that could create yet another inflationary pulse. We're just not going to know until we see how Trump behaves.